So welcome all the viewers of this webinar. I'm Swapna from Bay School of Design, and uh, this is our sixth webinar in the series. Okay, and today we have Srinath Rao with us, who would be talking on visualizing techniques for constructing imageries. Basically, he is going to talk to us on photography. So before I put Srinath to you, let me just give you a brief of what Srinath is or who he is. Srinath is basically an advertising and commercial photographer, and he is basically from Tiruvannamalai. Okay, and he did his education in Chennai and Dehradun, and he was working in, or he is working in London, and he has got a business, his freelance photography business. He's running it in London, as well as he's in the planning of, he's planning or he's doing establishing business in Bangalore as well as Mumbai. So his once this pandemic came, I mean, when it struck, he has moved back to India, and now he is trying to establish his business, his plan to establish business in Bangalore and Mumbai. He's trying to make it fruitful now. And going forward, once things settle down, he's planning to be working parallelly at UK as well as India. Now a brief on like how Srinath has got into this photography. As I told, he had his education in Chennai, Dehradun, London, and after that he was working in sales and marketing. He was working in Noida and Ahmedabad, and at the same time he was pursuing his passion of photography along with this. Okay, so then in between some time he got an opportunity to get into photography teaching when one of the institutes and animation institutes invited him to take classes for their students. So when he started off into commercial photography also. So from then on, he's a commercial photographer. And in 2018, he decided to become a full-time photographer, moving out from all the other extra activities that he was doing. But then when he looked back, he found that he is lacking, like he doesn't have a professional certification or a degree in photography. When he decided to achieve it, he just tried to get something of very good value. So he started checking for things, and then he was actually fortunate, and because of his ability, or because of his whatever he had as his portfolio in photography, he was fortunate enough to have a full scholarship from the British Council, where he could do his studies in London and UK, and along with that he could pursue his dream of becoming a photographer, and he could start his business also there. Okay, so from then he is working there. He's got clients all over. I mean, he's got clients in UK, commercial for photography, commercial photography. He has clients in UK as well as in India. If I remember, he's got around 25 more plus clients in India itself. Okay, along with those in UK. So this is a brief about him. Maybe going forward, when he starts his presentation, we would be knowing more about what he's and what he's doing now and what are his plans. So yes, Srinath, so over to you. Okay, so the viewers, we have students from Bay School of Design as well as the public. Okay, it's an open webinar for all. So once again, I welcome all of you, and over to you, Srinath.
Yeah, thank you, Swapna, for the introduction. And on the behalf of Bay School, I welcome you all for this webinar. And a special mention to Dr. Hindu Kesarkar for introducing me to Bay and giving me an opportunity to share my journey in photography so far. And yeah, I believe majority of the students in this webinar are from Bay. I think it must be from the public domain. So we can discuss about it in the end when there is a question on the discussion session at the end. So yeah, as the title says, like visualizing techniques for constructing imageries. I'm going to talk more on the visualization process involved in making an image than the technical aspects which is involved in it, like aperture, shutter speed, and all this other stuff. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm here purely to talk about the thinking process which goes behind producing an image before pressing the shutter button. So it's all about the visualizing techniques that we are going to talk about it right now. So photography being an art of perception, there is no prescribed way to like arrive at an outcome. There are like more than 10, 15 ways to arrive at an outcome. So it largely depends on how the person uh, or an individual visualizes, and it cannot be forced from one person to another person. It's totally your vision. So being said that, how do you train your vision? So the talk is going to be more about that right now. So so since there can be more than one way, so I decided there is no fixed way. So I'll talk more about my journey in photography and how I arrived at whatever I am now. So that will give a fair idea of how you should proceed with your career also. So yeah, like any other photographer, I also started my journey in travel and living. So I mean, travel photography to me started during my BTech days in 2007. So I started exploring India, and I also started taking some photographs. I started sharing them with my friends and family, and I also started getting critics from them. So that's how on the initial days I improved on my photography. And soon I had a good portfolio of work. So what I did was like I started going to places, documented the entire place from my perspective of it, wrote a small story on that, and I started circulating it to travel and lifestyle magazines in and around India and Sri Lanka. So they were quite happy with the images, and they started giving me regular features. So I went to a place, documented the whole thing, and that's how I initially established myself as a photographer in the commercial field. So I was basically a travel and lifestyle photographer. So doing a lot of travel. What happened was one of my friend who runs an institute in Delhi. Uh, the actual photography tutor who was there, he left, and having no other choice, she called me, like with no great experience in teaching. I went there with whatever photographs I had. I told those children, like, I really can't teach photography, but I can share my entire experience with you. And that's how I landed into photography, educating students in photography also. So I was educating students who were in animation, architecture, graphic designing, and even culinary arts. So I had to teach them all the basics of photography, how to visualize, uh, how to take a photograph, how do you market it, all this. I mean, the art part and the commercial part involved with the image making. I was teaching them. So while teaching them, it was also a very great learning experience for me as well. So I was during my travel days, it was all based on natural lighting. I was never used to all the studio lighting. So while teaching students, I was forced to teach them a studio session. That's where I got introduced to the world of studio lighting. And that opened up a lot of gates for me, actually. So the teaching, it introduced me to the world of commercial photography. So from then on, I started doing commercial projects also. These were my initial commercial and advertising photographs. I initially used to work for a lot of artisans, startup businesses, um, some medical manufacturers, and that's how I got into commercial and advertising photography. So the whole credit goes for my teaching. Without teaching, I wouldn't have got into this commercial and advertising photography. So a lot of a lot of photography projects were going on for me. And in the year 2018, I decided to turn a full-time photographer because I wasn't able to manage both my full-time career and photography projects. It was just becoming too much of responsibility for me. So I decided to turn full-time photographer. So turning a full-time photographer, I had a lot of time to contemplate on all my previous works and what was lacking, and I had a lot of time for myself. So uh, having entered the market, I knew like what was the shortfall on my own portfolio. So that is when I started to collaborate with a lot of people. So I had a lot of ideas. I compiled a lot of ideas and I found out a lot of people to collaborate with so that I can fill up all the shortfalls in my portfolio. So which will lead to increased commissions. So the whole of 2018, when I decided to quit my job, and for the next 6 months, I was only doing collaborations and I was preparing my portfolio for getting more commissions. And also parallelly, there was a thought like I wasn't like professionally qualified to be a photographer. So I was lacking more on the theoretical front of photography, which is not there in India. There is no theory part in India. So I was looking out for opportunities abroad, like where can I go and study and all these things. So in 2018, I decided, I shortlisted 3 universities, and I chose Arts University, Bournemouth, where I pursued my master's in commercial photography. Um, so during that time, I got selected, and I had like 6 more months in between to go to UK. So I collaborated a lot with a lot of artists, which you can see them in the slides now. So I took up an idea, and I took up a technical aspect which is involved in photography. Then I looked out for artists in and around to collaborate with, and we started producing works in a combined way. So these photographs can be used by me as well as them for their own portfolio purposes and for future marketing purposes. So these are some of the collaboration works that we produce together. I tried different lighting techniques, different composing techniques, a lot of things I tried out in those during these collaboration time. So unfortunately, nowadays, like collaboration is being a very highly misused term. So all the clients are using the word collaboration for getting free work done. So being an artist, we should be very careful, like to draw the line, which is collaboration, and where to get a commissioned work. So we need to balance both in a proper way. So I even tried still life during that 6 month period. So this one was shot with a museum called GD Naidu Museum. They have all the, the owner has a good collection of a very old cars, which is like 120-year-old cars and all these things. They have managed to restore it, and it's kept in a very good condition. So I just requested them whether I can do it or not. So these photographs added a lot to my portfolio. And likewise, I tried a lot of portraits again. So all these collaboration works which I produced during that 6 month period was selected by the British Council in India also. So taking all the different types of works that I have done, they agreed to offer me a full-time scholarship, a full fee scholarship to pursue my master's in Arts University. And that's where I got my formal degree in photography. So I was like, photography to me was like completely self self-learned art until I reached here. So the practices, what we do in India, and the practices what they do in the Western countries, it's like completely different. We shouldn't like ridicule them also, but it is the Western world where, it is the Western world who devised photography, and then it is they who marketed the photography in a completely different way. So it was basically a 11-month course, out of which all the first 3 months I was like very busy in understanding how photography evolved and how they started working. Um, just to understand their practices, it took me like 3 months for me to do it. And the first 3 months is also called like a reflective discourse unit where you'll have to reflect on whatever practices you have done in the past, and then you'll have to find out all the holes in it, like where are you lacking exactly, so that you will have to take up a major master project after these first 3 months. So these first 3 months of my course was like, it's all about identifying myself, like what is my style, what is my liking, what sort of images do I like producing. So a lot of personal introspection went on during this first 3 months, during which I traveled across UK to learn their culture and their practices in art. And I was exposed to other forms of art, because photography itself cannot like take inspirations from photography. So every art is interlinked. So I took a lot of inspirations from paintings, from architecture, uh, and in fact even the lifestyle of people over there was also an inspiration. So likewise, many other, I mean, a lot of factors were influencing me in taking up a project. So these were the words of my course leader in UK, called Mr. Paul Wenham Clark. So he went through all my portfolio of work, and he said, technically you're good, but we'll focus more on the concept. So the Western world is completely based on concept. It's not about the result where you get there, it's all about the process which they focused on. uh, Importance is given to the I mean, the main point of it is to produce an original body of work. So they focus more on the process than on the final result. So he told me, like, the biggest challenge for any international students, especially people from India, who are like technically sound, but we lack extremely on concept making. So Indians in the field of art, we don't have any proper concept. So it's all a copy. We have stripped down all the Western technicalities, and we are making it up to Indian, suiting to Indian standards. But we don't have a concept all of it by our own. So that's what he said. He said, like, and also another challenge was my project was completely based on UK. So he said, like, us being like, we are doing photography in UK for the past 35 years. So we are used to this place and we are used to this style of working. So the major challenge for you international students would be to produce a complete original body of work which should appeal extremely new to us. So that was the challenge which was laid in front of me. And after 3 months of rigorous travel and research, uh, I zeroed down on a project called Artisans of Dorset. I've been doing a lot of e-commerce. I mean, before going to UK, I was doing a lot of e-commerce project for uh, artisans in North India. I used to do a lot of independent projects so that they can sell their products online. So I was doing a lot of those things. So I went to UK and I found I found a very similar scenario which was prevailing there also. Artisans were not getting a push. So it's basically all this big marketing industries. They just picked up all these retail stores and they were selling all stuffs, whereas these artisans were not being noticed. I saw a very similar situation prevailing in UK also. So I thought, like, I'll take up Artisans of Dorset. That's how this I take up some project on artisans and I'll record their lives and record their work and lives in Dorset region. So that's how this project came into uh, place. So coming down, like, a lot of visual research went through. So my work involved a lot of portraits. So for portraits, I've shot portraits before, but something what was missing in my portraits was the art factor. So to get around the art factor, I traveled across Europe. Then I zeroed down upon an aesthetic, which is the aesthetic of Dutch painters. So yeah, once that aesthetic is like, I zeroed down on aesthetic. Um, I figured out how to arrive at that aesthetic using the modern day cameras available. So I engineered a bit more on the lighting and the lens and the camera and other stuff. I came down to this. Even the presentations on the left side you see is the inspiration, And on the right, the image which is produced, it's like inspired from that painting, have created a photograph which will suit to present day scenario. So likewise, I visited like around 20 plus artisans who deal in arts and crafts, food. So, and in collaboration with them, I created this portfolio of work. So in all the slides, the left side, what you see is the painting. It's a very famous painting. And on the right side, it is more or less the style is same, but it's being produced to present day scenario. Yeah. To talk more about this thing, I would emphasize more on the visual research part of it, because for any project, visual research is the key. The more you research on the visual part, the more ideas you will get. The main purpose of visual research is to gain inspirations, and it's just not to copy what they have done. It's not to reiterate just like that. So you'll have to gain as much of inspiration as possible, and you'll have to reiterate it to the present day political or the current scenario which you are dealing with. So that is the main importance of visual research. The more you do visual research, the more you will get an idea of like how do you want to visualize your outcome. So I believe most of the students, I mean most of them are like fashion and interior students here. So it's very important for both of them, because fashion and interiors, a lot should be emphasized on the product and the maker than photography itself. So the maker and the product, it carries 99% of the weightage. Photography is only 1%, because once you visualize what sort of image you want, photography becomes very very easy. So during this visualizing process, it's where you build your brand. So it's visualizing something is very very important. For you to visualize, you'll have to do a lot of visual research. So visual research will be like what other people have done. So when you keep noting down all these things, you will identify like what is missing in your portfolio or in your thinking process. So this is how visual research will help you in preparing a very good image. So I have written a complete blog on how I produced images in the Artisans of Dorset project. You can learn by clicking this link. So uh, during my major project, I collaborated with more than 15 plus businesses in UK. So that helped me in setting up my business in London, because I had a good portfolio of work through which it was very easy for me to get an endorsement from my university to freelance in London. So this happened in the year 2019, where I was endorsed by AUB, and the body of work which I produced by collaborating with so many people in UK, it helped me in like it helped me and it made my work easier when I was looking out for clients for my commercial work. So that's why collaborations are very very important. So these are some of my ongoing UK projects. This one is with a fashion agency. This one is again for an artisan he's a ceramic artist. So I did some shoots for them. It is a mix of portrait and still life which he wanted for his own advertising purposes. This is again an artisan soap maker. She wanted some images for her own advertising and social media advertising purposes. And he's an antique seller. And this one was purely for editorial. He advertises a lot through magazines and print media. So he wanted this style of photography. And I also do a lot of personal projects. So for especially for people in fashion and interiors, uh, a lot of emphasis should be made on the personal projects than the commissioned one, because we should understand that it is the personal projects which will lead to commissioned work. So the more personal work you do, uh, the more chances of getting commissioned. So your personal work should be like completely research based. So it should be very unique at the same time. So um, yeah, it should be something new and original body of work, because only that will commission lead to a commissioned work. So this is one of my ongoing personal projects, which is again a portrait, again portrait photography. This one was like I was documenting Eastern ethnic settlements in UK. So a lot of people have migrated from Asian countries to UK because of all the World War and other scenarios. So I was documenting their lives. I mean, their fashion statement there. So this is one project which is like still ongoing. This is another project. This is another video documentary project which I worked with a burlesque dancer and a magician. They both are like a team. So this is a video project where I documented their works and personal lives in a small video. It can be viewed by clicking on the below link. This is another documentary project I did there. So in India, I'm doing like two research projects. One is like there are a lot of old photographs which I have with me. So I'm researching on all the Indian elements which are there in the photograph. These photographs which you see here in this list, they were not clicked by actual photographers. They were clicked by amateurs. So that that has a lot of elements that can be studied for implementing it in present day scenario. So that is what I'm doing in this research project. Another ongoing project is I have a collection of very old utensils in my home. So I'm just doing a still life photography project. So this is my journey so far. And now we can have more of an interactive session. So I've told my way of how visualization has helped me. And now I'm open to questions. Like I can tell you like how to go further in your thing, in your chosen field of specialism. I can tell how photography can be uh, integrated with your chosen specialism.
Yeah, the floor is now open for question and answers.
Yeah, you have any questions in the slides I showed so far? That is also, I mean, I'm welcome to answer that also.
So, excuse me.
Yes.
Yes. I want to ask. There are many questions actually, so I'll be just stating them one by one. Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, in your before in the past, like you used to take a lot of pictures, right? Like before your projects. Like for example, there must have been landscapes, portraits of candid pictures of the people. So,
Yeah.
how did you proved your credibility to them? Like when you're taking a picture of someone or a location, you need to prove yourself to them that I'm not taking this picture for misuse, but rather to show the world.
Okay.
Period.
Okay. So initially, what in India there is no such copyright rule which is going on. There is no hard and fast copyright rule. Uh, so what you do is like take some. See, if you're shooting in an event, you don't need any permission from them. Basically, you just go and take random snaps. So if you're doing it for commission basis for magazines, what you do is there is something called a model release form. So you'll have to take that model release form, get the required permission from them if you're using it for commercial purposes, like if it gets into a print media or you're giving it to some magazines or using it for some hoarding. So you'll have to get all the necessary clearances from them, which is a fixed, I mean, which is a ready-made written form there. So I am such and so photographer. I have using such and such of your photograph for commercial purposes, and you hold no responsibility on this, and I take up the ownership. Something of this sort will be written on that. So if you go to this website called AOP, Association of Photographers, this is a UK based organization which will have this model release form and and a location release form. So you can use you can use that form. You can modify it if you want according to your purpose. So that's how you prove the credibility.
Okay. Next question. So in this current world, how do you maintain your creativity? Like this is like the current world is like everything is done and said, like many ideas have been already been created. So how do you maintain your creativity?
Yeah, that is the reason I'm emphasizing more on the visual research part of it. The more you do your visual research, right, you will soon come to a conclusion that what is missing. So once you define that what is missing, then your creative mind will push you to decide how to produce that image. So once you do it, then you land up on the technical side of it, how technically you produce it, and you read out the feasibility of, I mean, you make sure whether that project is feasible or not. So this is how you keep up your creativity. Again, there is no hard and fast rule for anything. This is how you do it. This is how I do it. I mean, you'll have to find out your own way of doing it.
Okay. Next question. So, do you ever look at your previous works from your past and ever have a desire to revamp it since you have more knowledge than before? Like you feel like redoing it again
Uh,
with your current knowledge?
mm, not all the projects. Somewhere you should draw the line also. You don't keep practicing the same thing again and again. I mean, if one is good in driving Maruti and he has gone to BMW, he won't come back to I mean, he won't drive a Maruti to test his skills again, right? So you will keep testing your skills on a higher level, although you may integrate all the learnings of it. So that is the way you move forward. If you keep revisiting it, you will be like in a circle. You won't be able to move forward.
Mm. Okay. Uh, okay, yeah. This is related to your commercial photography. So,
Mhm.
did you ever feel heavily restricted when you were participating in commercial photography, and how did you overcome it?
See, the only restriction I came across is that, too, especially in India, is the client doesn't have a vision for his or her brand. So when they don't have a vision, so that's when I came, because if they have a vision, it is like you work on that perspective and get the work done. People over here, majority of them were startups. Some of their concerns were genuine, but most of them were not genuine. So the place where I used to work on one concept, I had to work on 6 to 8 concepts and go back to them. Just because they don't have a vision for them, I had to do that work on behalf of them. So that was the major problem which I faced.
Okay. You must be feeling like you're being investigated right now
No, no.
with all these questions. Okay, next question. I think this is the last one. Yeah, this is the last question. What would you like to say to the people who try to take a gap year just like you took few months off for yourself, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, especially in this world where time is always being said that time is an essence. Like you can't waste time, you can't let go of it. You have to keep on working. Like you must never stop. So, what do you say to those people who want to take gap years?
See, a gap shouldn't be like a very redundant gap. It should be like an introspective gap. So you work on 100 plus projects, you may fail on 99, but if that one project clicks, right, it will surpass all the 99 other failures which you have gone through. A gap should be like that. A gap should be like you should be able to focus on your work completely. That's how a gap I mean. So you just can't take a blind year ahead and you can't do that. So it should be a completely introspective gap for you. A blind gap is always dangerous. You will go back.
Well, I feel like gap years are like you're giving yourself this rest period, like not rest, like you're giving yourself this time to find yourself, like
Yeah,
what
that
you want
I
to
mean, the
do.
introspection is very, very important for any artist, be it any artist. Introspection is very, very important. You will have to take some gaps in between. You'll have to do a reflective analysis of what you have done and what is the current trend going on. What is it that you're missing? So you need to take a break every now and then to find out all the shortcomings in your own portfolio. That is the only way you bench up your current portfolio of work. So that makes you more creative also there.
Hmm. So I'm done with the questions.
Yeah,
Thank
hope I
you.
answered.
So Bustana has completed her series of questions, right? Okay. So do we have anyone else? Anybody wants ask? Yeah, there is a feedback coming in. in this webinar, we understand the effort, the skill set, and the passion needed and invested um, in creating a visual treat, amazing work exhibited. So, Srinath, this is for you. I'll read once again. It says that in this webinar, we understand the effort, the skill set, and the passion needed and invested in creating a visual treat, amazing work exhibited.
Thank you.
So, do we have any more questions? Any of the viewers have?
Another point which I missed in my talk is like how visual research helps you in developing your own identity. I missed that point. So to develop an identity, you should again introspect on your own self, which is your individuality. You should like keep on introspecting what is your liking, what are your dislikes, what attracts you more, what doesn't, what turns you off. So you'll have to do a lot of introspection to find out what your individuality is. You'll have to keep discovering this your ever changing individuality every now and then. So according to this, your likes and dislikes will keep changing. So this is very important when you're doing a visual research. So you'll have to, when you keep doing visual research, right, your mindset will keep changing every day. So you'll have to keep up with those standards. This is one point which I missed during my presentation.
Srinath, sorry, you have to unmute again. Srinath, please unmute.
I'm open to questions again. This is, I mean, the last point I skipped it, so I just said that now.
Yeah, I just muted because somebody was, background, some noise was coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, still open for questions. Have any? I think there are no questions.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, Aisha, yes.
Yeah. Sir, actually, my question for you is, how do you actually please your clients, like customers? It's really hard, no? You will have a different point of view, and these clients will have a different point of view of how the work should be done. So, how do you actually please your clients?
Some clients you really can't please them. So that's quite difficult. Okay. Uh, see, I'll tell you how I did it. See, I don't take any efforts in pleasing any of my clients. So what I do is like I just understand what their requirement is. Then what I do is before, I mean, if before getting any new client, I give them something called a test shoot. So this test shoot, most of the clients, they don't have an idea of what they want. Basically all the problems start only because of that. So I schedule a test shoot. So in this test shoot, when I keep shooting the products in my own style, right, the client keeps the client sees it for the, I mean, he or she must have done his or her own research. So they look into my photograph also and they start comparing it, which is good, which is bad, what are the shortfalls, what are this thing. So this test shoot, it's like a complete it's a process to understand what your client needs. Even if they don't know, you should be in a position to capture it. So once this happens, you'll be able to convince your client easily. So you need to understand your client. That is the only way you can convince them.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you'll have to show something which they haven't seen before.
So, like, you have to think out of the box.
Yeah, something like out of the box you'll have to. And sometimes it will be like a very straightforward and easy thing. That's what I mean. If it's a very simple client, they want a very simple picture and you're done there.
Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would like to ask, what to you is the most challenging while you shoot, while you take a photograph? What is the most challenging thing?
See, the most challenging thing is like you visualize in your mind. That is the most challenging thing. Uh, from the very young age, your mind must have seen like millions of photographs so far. So your mind has to detach itself from all your past learnings and other whatever visions you had. You'll have to detach yourself from that, and you'll have to create a vision which is very unique to what you are. So that is the most challenging part for me.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, I feel the most challenging thing for any designer is to get the ability to visualize, right?
Yes.
Whether you are an interior designer or a fashion or a photographer, whatever.
Visualization is like the seed. So if you plant that right, then the thinking process will become very easy. uh, See, the major problem I find is like in India, there is not much emphasis which is given to the thought process. We are more interested on the result. So that is a major learning in UK for me, like the thought process, which is very very important. So once that process gets into the cycle right, everything becomes very easy. So the result, it's like it happens in seconds. And I mean, the basic, even a learning process itself is very different from here to there. Here there they concentrate more on the process, here we concentrate more on the result. So that is the actual problem here. People fail to visualize anything here.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Again. So you have already mentioned like the teaching was basically like you becoming a teacher to teach the students, so basically like a stepping stone for you to
Mhm.
this where you are. So where would you be if you were not given this opportunity to teach
See,
right now?
some things are happy accidents in your life. You don't expect something and it just works out. So you'll have to treat it like that. So it's not like, if not, what happened, I don't know. I would have done the same thing probably in a different way. So if probably I wouldn't have got into commercial at all if I had not taught students
The
over there,
teaching
because
opportunity.
yeah, because I had to learn studio lighting and then I have to teach them. So that opened up a gate of opportunities for me. So yeah, it's just a learning curve. Everything is just a learning curve.
Yeah, there is one more question here. Kritika is asking, how can we conclude that we have done an efficient visual research?
See, an efficient visual research will is directly proportional to the to whatever you have created. So if your creation is unique, beautiful, original, and all these things, it means you have done a very good visual research. So when something original is being created, you can conclude that it's a very good visual research. Some people do have this talent innately, but for some people, it has to come through visual research and other research exercises. It should come because of that.
Yes, she's clear. Yes.
So visual research is all about a gateway to train your mind how to visualize. That is the main point of visual research. The more you research, the more, I mean, it's more on the theoretical aspect, and it is basically a desk job. When you sit in your computer and you research how other people have done, you'll automatically will get to know what is not being done. So that opens up a gateway to an original body of work.
So
So that's
excuse
how
me,
we.
sir.
Yes.
Again. So there are in this year itself there are many trends right now going on, especially like the vertical or the portrait pictures, the 360, the aerial, vivid cast, those trends of what if trends in photography. What are your feelings about those trends?
See, these trends are very short-lived. Anything that catches up fire very quick, it will subside very, I mean, very soon. we should understand that people are getting back. I don't know about the local brands here, but major brands across the globe, they are back to like normalcy, how people see. They don't get into drone, they don't get into 360 or anything of that sort. They're getting back to normalcy, how people are viewing it. So how you make the normal vision, make it excellent. So that is going to be the trend again. I mean, it was the trend of the 60s and 70s, when photography was like was invented regularly on different modes. So that is again coming back into style. So these trends are okay, but it has a very short lifespan. There's nothing wrong in trying it, but it's better to stick to the basics always.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Also, during your college days, emphasize a lot on collaborations, because this is the right time. College is the right time where you can collaborate with businesses. I mean, students who are pursuing their interiors can collaborate with a fashion designer. They both can combinedly do a new piece of work, and then they can collaborate with a photographer, with an upcoming photographer, to develop a new body of work. Likewise, what happens is during this collaboration, you all three will have a portfolio of work. So once you get a job, right, they're not going to look into your degree. So they will look into the portfolio of work what you have created. So that will add a lot of weightage once you're being recruited, or if you're setting up your own business, that will help a lot. So put a lot of weightage during this phase in collaborations. So once you set up your business or you go to work, right, collaborations will become a very tough part, because you'll have to rely on some source of income for running your day-to-day needs. So at this time, collaborations, I mean, it's not very difficult for you people. So just don't collaborate for the sake of collaboration. Have an idea, like visualize what you want to do. Create, I mean, you need to have the ideas on paper before it is on reality. So that is, collaborations are important in that way.
So yeah. So any more questions? Any doubts? Any feedback you have to give regarding the program, regarding this session? It's open. You can give an open feedback. Anybody wants to give a feedback? Any one of you?
I'll give. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I give my feedback?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, thank you, sir, for taking your time out of your busy schedule, especially in this stressful time of the COVID-19, for presenting us this amazing session and showing us or letting us actually have a little bit of the experience, your life experience of what you have done, what you have to experience to reach where you are, and being able to answer our questions, some doubts we had, and especially showing us your projects like the Artisan of the Dorset and the ethnic projects, which includes the vessels and the in all Indian photographs. So thank you for showing us those projects as well. And the examples you had presented us with, especially the examples of your works where you take the modern take of a paintings, especially of the Dutch paintings, which was kind of like an inspiration to you. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bastana. So before we conclude, I have one more question here, Srinath. This is
Yes.
from Abin. He's given me a feedback as well as a question. So let me go to the question first. He's asking, why choose to be a commercial photographer?
You can choose to be anything. If you want to be a landscape photographer, you can be a landscape photographer. If you want to be a fashion, you can be a fashion photographer. Uh, I chose commercial because I'm good in sales and marketing. So just being a photographer didn't help me actually. So I took photographs of the products created by artisans, and I also helped in marketing those products to the public, in the public. So that's how I became a commercial photographer. I have my mixed interests in photography, sales, and marketing. So that's how I landed in becoming a commercial photographer.
Okay. So he's given us feedback also. He says, thank you for your valuable time and knowledgeable session and for educating us with your valuable live sessions as well. Yeah, of course. Yes. So Kritika says it was so nice that you shared your life experience with us. So I think it's time for us to, yeah, one more question. Are you planning to do wedding photography anytime in future?
Never.
So Nimisha, what's your plan actually?
I continue to do my research in photography, and I do a lot of commercial and advertising projects, and I want to give a lot of more emphasis on research now again, because I haven't done that in the past before. I want to do that now, and yeah, also I'll be like educating. I mean, I'll be a freelance photography educator, so that's the plan as of now.
Um, Kritika has one more point here. She's asking how, Kritika, I'm not clear on this question. You're asking how can wedding photography be commercial, or what is this? Just curious, since it's a big trend these days. What can be commercial?
See, anything you make money with is commercial. So yeah, weddings are commercial too nowadays, because anything which is being converted, any art form which is being converted into a sort of marketing or a package stuff, right? That becomes commercial. So weddings are commercial. You can make it both ways. Weddings can be art. I mean, it can be an art. So where you capture it very artfully, like a new technique is involved, a new lighting technique is identified. So that can be like an art. And if it's just for documenting purpose, that can also be used as a commercial thing.
Okay, now I see you. Again, questions are now coming in. So next, like, Abin is asking, what are your thoughts on wildlife photography and lifestyle photography?
See, both are two different ends of the spectrum. So wildlife, you need to be on the, see, on wildlife you cannot dictate anything. It's on the moods of nature you will have to go with. So a lot of patience is required. A lifestyle, you can dictate things, but being a photographer, you can combine both. You can combine lifestyle and wildlife also. That is also possible. So see, for wildlife, your opportunity, I mean, the opportunities to earn a good money is very limited. Very few people have made it to that point. Whereas lifestyle, a lot of opportunities are there for quick money. For a wildlife, you need to have a lot of patience, very good equipment, and so on and so forth. Whereas lifestyle, you still need all those equipments, but it's not as tough. It depends on your body type, whether you can take up that sort of a stress or not. Lifestyle doesn't require that sort of stress, but wildlife, it requires a lot of stress created by nature, and you need to practice a lot of patience. And lifestyle, it's just the same thing. I mean, photography, I personally don't categorize photography into genres like this is lifestyle, this is wildlife, this is fashion. I don't do that. For me, photography is like capturing the true character of whatever it is in front of your lens. So that's what photography is. So you can just do anything. It's
Well,
all about
Srinath,
capturing the right image.
there is one question here. Like, you're basically your education was in engineering, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now what attracted you to photography is the question.
Engineering, I still like engineering. It's not like I hate it. The problem is like I was stuck in a. I mean, my career was becoming too stagnated there. I mean, I wasn't doing anything new. Plus, photography took over. I could say that. So at that point, I thought like, let me have a shift. And then things took up in a different way.
So then, sir, what are your list of tips for beginners from Ibtisa?
List of tips for beginners. Okay. Uh, Research and note down 5 photographers whom you like. Research about their works completely. Look at how they have produced their image. These two things are more than sufficient for a beginner. So first, train your mind to see things. You can then take photographs of it. So once you start training your mind, the technical part is just 1% of it. There is nothing much technical involved in this. It's just the thought process of becoming a photographer which is more important. The technical can be learned very quickly. It's not a big deal. A lot of things goes into the thought process. So work, research. Being a starter in photography, you'll have to do a lot of research. And how to start it? Note down 5 photographers whom you like. Read all their works. Read their images. That's how it starts.
One more. What is your view on editing photos? What is your view on editing photos?
Okay, my view is like editing should only be like a support tool for photography. Editing is not a must. If your photograph, I mean, if it's being captured all well, editing is not required. I don't edit much of my work. All the work what you see, it's like either a play of light or a play of composition. Very little editing has been done on all the images whatever I've shown you. So editing can be a sidekick for a very good image, or to make a beautiful image more beautiful, you can use editing. But don't rely on editing to make a beautiful image. That is not the right way to do it.
Okay. I don't think. Are there any more questions? Wait for one more minute.
Yeah.
I think we can wrap up. It's time to wind. Yeah. So Srinath, so thank you so much. It was a wonderful session.
Mhm.
We're so patiently answering so many questions. Okay, they initially there was a starting trouble for the flow, but then so
Yeah, I'm talking after a long gap actually.
yeah, your throat is also like sorry for that. So so it was like as they said, yeah, you have given shown them taken like your how you came to this, what ships you had faced, you had gone through getting into this, and details and all. So again, there is one more question. Okay,
Yes.
maybe we'll take this as the last one because I don't want to just keep on prolonging this. Before becoming a professional photographer, how hard it was for you to convince your clients?
It was not difficult because the process which I took up was like the process which I didn't require me to convince my client at all. It's like I collaborated with some people. I mean, I did collaborations, and those work it helped me in like convince. I mean, not just show this work to a client. It wasn't very hard in convincing them. So the work you create during collaboration, right? That is more important. Once you do that right, then there is no need for you to convince your client at all. it becomes a very easy process. So don't focus on convincing your client. Create a good portfolio of work where the client will automatically choose you. So the difficult process of convincing someone doesn't happen there. So focus more on developing a good body of work. So once you get that process right, finding clients is not a very difficult thing.
Yeah. So one more question from Raima. Okay, yeah, Raima. She asked, "What makes a picture interesting?"
Could be a lot of things. It depends. It's a very subjective question. What to me, to me, it's the composition which makes the photograph very interesting. Again, that is from my perspective. It could be lighting. It could be the subject which is there in it. It could be the composition. It could be the framing. It could be the way it is being disseminated. There are so many things involved in this. It could be the way it's being cut or something. The way it is being cut and being created into a collage or a montage, the way it is being executed. There's so many factors involved in this. So I just can't like narrow it down to one. It varies from photograph to photograph.
Yeah, of course, it's very subjective. Yes. So I think at least now no more questions, right? So we are good to end the session. Yeah. So so thank you so much, Srinath. So it was a very good piece of advice which you gave them on collaboration. These are most of them are freshers. Okay, the
Okay.
of designers, the wedding designers. So you gave them a real piece of advice on collaboration, saying that at this time what they should look at. Okay, because
Yeah. Start collaborating now. It's the right
yeah,
time.
yes. So they have designers, interior designers, fashion designers, as well as we have film editing and all students from that background also here. So maybe they will have friends here. They could collaborate among themselves also to look at producing something good. And of course, the importance of visualization and visual research. What is it and how it should benefit them, and what that is the main thing that a designer should have. Okay, they should be able to visualize what they have to create. So with this, we thank you so much on behalf of all the viewers and the students of Sindra Bay and Sindra Bay School of Design. Thank you so much. So our viewers are still looking forward for more webinars from you. There are messages coming in. Looking forward for more webinars from you, sir.
Oh,
And
thank you.
it was very good to have you here. Hope you get well soon on your throat as well. So so. Uh, that's it, viewers. Thank you all. So it's time that we say bye bye.
All right.
Pick
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you. Bye.